I'm Candace Lim, and I'm the host of ICYMI, Slate's podcast about internet culture. My guests and I are like your internet historians of the past, present, and future. Fire Festival as one of these monocultural internet events of the good, the bad, and the truly unhinged. I would rather work at Walmart on Black Friday. From nuanced takes to trending stories to ones you wish you heard about. In case you missed it, that's ICYMI, the podcast that's extremely online so you don't have to be. Follow now wherever you're listening.
There's a lot that could impress you about the all-new Honda Prologue EV. True, it's got class-leading passenger space and clean, thoughtful design and intuitive technology. But what really sets the Prologue apart from the competition is that it's more than an EV. It's a Honda. Honda, the power of dreams. Visit honda.com/prologue to learn more.
This episode is brought to you by Experian. Are you paying for subscriptions you don't use, but can't find the time or energy to cancel them? Experian could cancel unwanted subscriptions for you, saving you an average of $270 per year and plenty of time. Download the Experian app. Results will vary. Not all subscriptions are eligible. Savings are not guaranteed. Paid membership with connected payment account required.
Hey everyone, I'm Aiden, and this week on Banterly, we're dropping one of our favorite episodes of Sportly, Immigrantly Media's newest podcast. This episode is all about hip-hop and breakdancing, just in time for the breaking finals debut at the Olympics this weekend. Hope you enjoy.
It's a few months before the 1984 LA Olympics. NBC is airing a special. The stars salute the U.S. Olympic teams.
Monday, the stars come out to salute this summer's Olympics with Tom Selleck, Brooke Shields, Robin Williams, Diane Cannon, and more in a 3-hour extravaganza. Monday.
This 3-hour special includes entertainment from some of America's most beloved and recognizable faces. There's Robin Williams, Diane Cannon, and Tom Selleck. But there's also some new up-and-coming faces on the screen, the New York City Breakers. They're a Bronx-based group of teenage boys, the oldest is 18, currently dancing through an incredible combination of steps, flips, kicks, and spins. To the media, they're breakdancing, but to the boys themselves, they're b-boying, rocking, or breaking. And yes, there is a difference. As the Breakers perform, their manager Michael Holman watches from backstage, and a thought occurs to him. Why are we entertainment, he wonders. Why aren't the Breakers themselves Olympic athletes? If you've seen breaking, you'd understand the sentiment. It's a high-energy mix of dance, gymnastics, and martial arts from various karate movies. It takes a lot of strength to execute these moves. B-boy Chino Lopez confidently states,
Me, my whole crew, we challenged the 1984 gold medal winners in the floor exercise gymnastics team in a competition.
And with that, Holman and the crew draft up a proposal to add breaking to the Olympics, adding rules and a structural breakdown of the art form. Within the proposal is a bold statement. We, the New York City Breakers, see the Olympic Games as our future. It said, we see breakdancing as a future Olympic sport and ourselves as pioneers in making this dream a reality. As it turns out, they were envisioning a very real future. Hey everyone, it's Kavitha Davidson, and welcome back to Sportly. Each week we'll talk about sports history, iconic events, notable athletes, and some of the lesser known, but still important, moments on and off the field. Moments that, all too often, tend to get sidelined. If you listened to part 1 of our conversation on the Olympics, you may remember that the IOC, or International Olympic Committee, allows host cities to propose new, temporary events to add to their Olympic program. This year, Paris added 2, kayak cross and, as we mentioned in the intro, breaking. You might know it by its more common name, breakdancing, though that term is a bit controversial. And many people are asking why breaking was added to the Olympic program. Equally important to ask is how breaking, and by extension, hip-hop culture, became a global phenomenon in the first place, especially when both were long excluded from the mainstream. The introduction of breaking at the Olympics is up for debate, with questions of whether or not you should even consider it a sport at all. From the original creators of hip-hop culture, there's this question that arises anytime a niche cultural expression joins the global stage. Is this visibility beneficial? Does it strengthen breaking and garner respect for a once stigmatized culture? Or does this visibility risk veering into appropriation? Does it reduce an art form down into this objective performance for a panel of judges? And what does it mean when a form of cultural expression born from Black and brown communities only seems to gain global recognition when it's embraced by white audiences? To address these questions, we'll have to go back to the basics. What is breaking? Where did it come from? And how did it make its way to the Olympics?
Supersonic. Supersonic.
It's August 1973 in the South Bronx, and we've just been invited to Cindy Campbell's back-to-school party, the hottest party in the neighborhood. The apartment is packed with people desperate to let loose in these last moments of freedom before the school year starts. And what gets people more excited than some good music? Well, lucky for us, the DJ tonight is amazing. It's Cindy's younger brother, 16-year-old Clive, better known as DJ Kool Herc. He's no regular DJ. At this point, Herc is known in the neighborhood for his skills on the turntable. And we're about to watch him show them off to his biggest crowd yet. On his turntable are two vinyls. One of them is James Brown's Give It Up or Turn It Loose, playing under his left hand. Bopping along is what's called the break. It's that instrumental part of a song. Lots of percussion, lots of groove and rhythm. The crowd loves it. Breaks and songs are perfect for showing off new dance moves and keeping the party fun. And Kool Herc's a great DJ. He notices the crowd grooving along and wants to make the night even better. So he makes a decision that will make this day go down in history. He decides to whip out a new technique. While the James Brown record spins through the break, Kool Herc slides into another track. It's called Bongo Rock by the Incredible Bongo Band. The breakbeat is funky and fun, and most importantly, the beats match up with James Brown. In this way, Kool Herc is able to make a breakbeat last as long as he likes. He calls this technique the merry-go-round. Sometimes he smoothly switches between identical copies of the same record. Other times, he rewinds a familiar track back to the beginning or overlaps tracks together with his mixer. Either way, the music is this incredible, continuous stretch of rhythm that you just can't help but dance to. And as a result, the dance floor comes alive. With this new beat comes a new style of dance. Kids let loose, kick and step to the rhythm, and then get down on the dance floor. Taking turns in the dance circle, the dancers bust a move from their favorite karate movie, showing off the latest and hottest tricks. These dancers would become to be known as B-boys and B-girls, with the B standing for break, since they always dance during the break of a song. With DJ Kool Herc's new technique and a number of amazing dancers, the Campbell Party is a huge hit. For most, that night is an escape from the harsh realities of the world, an oasis where everybody can channel their frustrations into something creative and fun. And this is a necessity, because the neighborhood that they call home is currently going up in flames.
That is a live picture, and obviously a major fire in a large building in the South Bronx region of New York City. That's a live picture, and obviously the fire department in the Bronx have their problems. My goodness, that's a huge place.
That's the very area where President Carter trod just a few days ago.
Beginning in the early 70s, entire neighborhoods in the Bronx start catching on fire and burning to the ground. And this is not just a one-time occurrence. It's night after night, year after year of apartment fires, as many as 40 a day at the peak of the burnings. These fires are no coincidence. Like many things, they come down to money. See, New York at this time is on the verge of bankruptcy, and low-income communities are facing the brunt of budget cuts.
Everything south of the Cross Bronx Expressway, they just let it burn, and nobody gave a damn.
And all of a sudden, neighborhoods just went whoosh, gone.
Nobody's aware of the fact that we got a city dump right here in the backyard.
How could city government...
Some of the fires are the result of things like poorly maintained infrastructure and faulty wiring that the city supposedly has no money to fix. And believe it or not, some corrupt landlords are guilty too. In the hopes of collecting insurance money, some landlords pay arsonists to blaze their properties to the ground, displacing and endangering the families that had lived inside. On top of this, there's a startling lack of fire stations to respond to emergency calls. The city closed a dozen fire companies, many of which were in the South Bronx, only to open new ones in wealthier suburban neighborhoods in Staten Island and the North Bronx. In the end, some sources say that over 40% of South Bronx homes were burned or abandoned from 1970 to 1980, and around 250,000 to 500,000 people were displaced. The Bronx fires are just a symptom of a wider issue. Due to a phenomenon known as white flight, the Bronx's white middle-class population has been dropping severely for a while now. Hundreds of thousands of white families are moving out of the Bronx, and with them, the city's allocation of funds follows. It's this process that drains the Bronx of resources, thanks to a long, complex history of America's racial issues. Most of the families remaining are Black or Latino, and as the years go on, they watch as their communities fall apart around them, as divestment leads to further disenfranchisement.
At the time, New York City was almost bankrupt. There was really nothing there for kids to do. When we started the party, it was different because you felt connected. You felt a part of it.
This is what makes Cindy's party and her brother's music so special. Block parties continue to thrive and thrum with funk, soul, disco, and jazz records. The B-boys and B-girls on the dance floor tighten and refine their moves in a series of increasingly epic, high-energy steps. They start forming dance crews. The Zulu Kings form as early as 1973. And then there are groups like Star Child La Rock, Crazy Commandos, and the Rocksteady Crew. They often battle each other, which becomes a nonviolent way of confrontation. It's a good way to foster community stability in a place so often stigmatized by crime. This community forms the backbone of hip-hop culture, characterized by 5 pillars: DJing, MCing, graffiti, knowledge, and, yes, breaking. For a while, the culture remains tight-knit and localized. Like many subcultures, there's a rebellious flavor to hip-hop, a resistance to the very system that has ignored the Black and Latino community's concerns for years. Hip-hop is radical. It's a response to decades of institutionalized racism. Many radio stations refuse to play early hip-hop tracks, with management and advertisers fearful of how white listeners will respond. But that will soon change as the years go on. Hip-hop inches into the mainstream in 1979 when the Sugar Hill Gang releases their hit record, Rapper's Delight, which soon shoots up to number 36 on Billboard's Hot 100. And soon after that, breaking reaches a much broader stage as well.
Now what you hear is not a test, I'm rapping to the beat. And me, the groove, and my friends are gonna
In 1982, London emerges as a major hip-hop hub outside of New York City, thanks to the New York City Rap Tour. This tour includes standout performances from Africa Bambaataa, Phase 2, Ramel Z, the Fantastic Four Double Dutch Team, and the Rocksteady Crew. Pulling these groups together is a woman who calls herself Cool Lady Blue, a British woman who entered New York's club scene in 1981. Cool Lady Blue organizes the tour to introduce hip-hop music and culture to Europe. Despite a rocky gig in Paris, where fans apparently threw bottles at the stage, London turns out to be a big hit. Cool Lady Blue will end up changing breaking culture, but in a way as some cite as inauthentic and problematic. While speaking to the press, Cool Lady Blue allegedly says the word breakdance. It immediately sounds unfamiliar to the hip-hop artists and b-boys who are there too. They laugh at the term. What is breakdance? As legendary b-boy Crazy Legs will reflect on later, he's always known this dance form as breaking, rocking, b-boying, or b-girling. But breakdancing is what Cool Lady Blue calls it, and that's what the media hears. The term breakdancing sticks, much to the disappointment of its original practitioners. Nevertheless, this transition from breaking to breakdancing represents something larger as we move into the 1980s. Breaking rapidly expands. Cool Lady Blue has brought hip-hop to Europe. Back in the States, breakers are performing at local park jams, which catches the eye of people in high places. The New York City Breakers perform at President Ronald Reagan's inauguration ball in 1985. Performing for the president no doubt says something about the direction breaking, and therefore hip-hop culture, is going. Breaking's popularity then expands to film and television. There's the scene from the movie Flashdance in 1983, where b-boys perform on the sidewalk while a growing crowd watches and claps along. Two of the breakers from that scene appear on an episode of David Letterman's late-night talk show not long after that.
And the most exciting breakers are a New York group called the Rocksteady Crew, featured in the new motion picture Flashdance. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not to be believed. Please welcome two members from that group, Crazy Legs and Ken Swift.
Other movies like Beat Streak and Breaking continue to bring breaking into the spotlight. Breaking in the media continues to spread the culture abroad, striking a chord with international communities who can relate to the freedom and energy breaking offers. Our neighbor to the north, Canada, grows a b-boy culture. Immigrant-rich neighborhoods in France catch on during this decade as well, and France airs one of the first regular, nationwide, weekly shows exclusively about hip-hop. For many nations, their introduction to breaking comes through American cinema. The 1983 film Wild Style brings breaking to Japan, where the Rocksteady Crew tours soon after. And before the fall of the Soviet Union, youth in the USSR watch breaking on pirated copies of films and feel it speaks to their own desire for rebellion and political reform.
Let's tell you, we're double trouble girls, and we're doing it just for you. Now people clap your hands, clap, just clap your hands. While you're rocking to the beat of the two.
So far, we've seen breaking go from the expressive new art form of an underrepresented community to a dance style taking mainstream America and the world by storm. By the 1990s and 2000s, you've got chart-topping MCs like Tupac, Biggie, Dr. Dre, and Lil' Kim solidifying their place in the music scene, which opens the doors for large-scale hip-hop performances and music videos. As artists introduce dancers in the background, hip-hop dance styles continue to grow in appeal and commercial value. There's a lot of money to be made from the culture.
Welcome everybody to the Wild Wild West, a state that's untouchable like Elliot Ness. The track hits your eardrum like a...
It's important to note that breaking has always had a competitive flair to it. B-boys and B-girls look to one-up each other's moves in what's called a cypher, which is when you form a circle and take turns dancing in the middle. Early on, this was a pretty organic process, with breaking crews battling each other in the street. These battles eventually evolve into judged competitions with more structure and guidelines. The first international breaking competition appears in 1990 with the German-founded Battle of the Year. This will be an annual event from here on out and is sometimes referred to as the World Cup of B-boying. The event draws breaking crews from all over the world: the UK, Hungary, China, South Africa, the list goes on. An international panel of judges formally scores the crews and then declares winners. Other breaking competitions also pop up, including Pro-Am and Freestyle Session in the US, the UK B-Boy Championships, and the notorious IBE in the Netherlands. This wave of international competitions sets the stage for who will eventually govern the art of breaking and make the rules for a global audience. It's 2004 in Biel, Switzerland, where 16 breakers are waiting to claim a new title, Best Solo Breaker in the World. Red Bull, the energy drink company, has just founded its own breaking competition, Red Bull BC1. This annual international breaking competition is a one-on-one format, which means every man for himself. The MC, Razel, introduces the event to a roaring audience.
Y'all ready for some competition or what? We got 16 B-boys from 10 countries, some of the best in the world. It's about to hit the stage.
DJ Supreme scratches a mix of tracks as Razel announces the 5 judges. Now, these judges are renowned breakers in their own right, each hailing from a different country. The B-boys are Bebe from the US versus Leo from Germany. DJ Supreme scratches and samples breakbeats, and the round is set for 3 minutes. Once they're ready, round 1 begins. Each b-boy trades turns back and forth, each combo lasting 20 to 30 seconds at a time. They often start with a bit of top rock, which are the steps you do while standing. And then, here come the elements that have become iconic to breaking: down rock, power moves, freezes. The crowd erupts into shouts and cheers when they see something impressive. And alongside the artistry of dance itself, it's a true feat of athleticism. With 1 minute left, Bebe and Leo give it their all. But as competitions go, only one can move on to the next round. The judges hold up their cards.
And the winner is Bebe!
Bebe is the winner and will move on to the next bracket. The competition continues like this, with b-boys competing with their own unique style, flair, and signature moves. The 8 first-round winners compete head-to-head in round 2. Round 2 winners move on to round 3. And by the time we reach the final, it's down to Omar and Ronnie from the US competing for first place. This final round begins to the beat of James Brown's Give It Up or Turn It Loose, the iconic break made famous by DJ Kool Herc. Like always, there's 3 minutes on the clock. Both b-boys are talented, of course, it's what got them this far. But when Omar whips off his beanie, executes an incredible power move, and catches his beanie again in midair, the crowd goes wild. In the end, Omar, an 18-year-old from Texas, is the first Red Bull BC1 champion.
It's remarkable. It's my first time winning a one-on-one in Europe, so it definitely means a lot to me, and I'm real glad and real happy I just got the opportunity to come out here and I won.
Red Bull's breaking competition is widely regarded as one of the top breaking competitions worldwide. Just to make it to the World Finals requires either an invitation or a series of other regional qualifying battles. It's a great glimpse into what it means to put breaking on the global competitive stage. Judging criteria are usually based on things like musicality, difficulty of movement, creativity, and personality. Judges also value a breaker's strong foundational moves. A few judges say that they pay attention to the way dancers are dressed, which probably has something to do with the level of style and authenticity. So even though breaking is still a style of dance, formally judged competitions undoubtedly give it a new flavor than its organic roots in the 1970s. It's these competitions that make way for a new territory, the Olympics. Breaking's Olympic journey begins in 2016. Now, if you recall from our previous episode, any sport vying for Olympic recognition must already be globally governed by an international federation. There is, in fact, one for dance, called World Dance Sport Federation, which the Olympics has recognized since 1997. And this shows that the IOC has seen the potential for dance as a sport for decades. Most cite Jean-Laurent Burcan as the person who first suggests breaking be added to the Olympic program. To Burcan, breaking is a natural addition to the Olympics. It's extremely athletic, and some even compare it to gymnastics. It's also something that appeals to a younger crowd, which is becoming a more important part of Olympic criteria. After all, part of maintaining an international event of this scale is appealing to the next generation, who will be the next era of Olympic athletes and fans. The IOC decides to give breaking a try, and they add it to the Youth Olympics set for 2 years later.
Bumblebee has stung, takes the first B-Boy World Youth Olympic champion.
Burcan's vision proves extremely popular. Buenos Aires hosts the 2018 Youth Olympics with breaking as one of its top events. More than 1 million people watch the competition on TV, which features an event for B-boys, an event for B-girls, and a mixed event. The breakers fall between the ages of 15 to 18 years old, not surprising given breaking's history. What is surprising is that no competitors represent the U.S., the birthplace of breaking. Breaking at the Youth Olympics is so popular that it's included in the Olympic program for Paris 2024. It clearly meets plenty of the criteria, but there's some pushback from a few folks in the breaking community. Even before breaking was announced for Paris, Ken Swift, an OG b-boy from the Rocksteady crew, worried that introducing a governing body to the world of breaking would diminish the individuality of the craft. Plus, he just doesn't consider it a sport. You don't play breaking the way you play basketball. So the controversy is this question that's been coming up since breaking started gaining global and commercial popularity. Just what is gained and what is lost when a community subculture is put on the main stage?
It's going to happen anyway. That's the reality of it. So it's either we watch it explode and complain, or we get in and try to make sure that everything is okay.
But even within the hip-hop community, there are different opinions on breaking's expansion to the Olympics. Some argue that it's great visibility and gets people excited about the dance form. Others say that the Olympics take something away from the soul and spirit of breaking.
Happy for us. I was just worried about, it being corny and being commercial, but I always believed that our culture was strong.
A b-boy for Team USA this year, Jeffrey Lewis, aka B-Boy Jeffro, says that breaking is about having your own unique image. But instead, he says that some have turned the dance into something you just replicate and learn. Others agree and say that since the IOC announced breaking a few years ago, various nations have been training for this event specifically. There's the worry that people will focus too heavily on impressive power moves in order to score points, as opposed to really appreciating the artistry and personality.
The Olympics can shatter this because you want to win the battle, so we only do what the judges want. So you won't take risks.
in your dance. And I think in all art form, taking risks is the most important.
And then there's this discussion on appropriation versus appreciation. Roxy, a black B-girl from South London, spoke to BuzzFeed about being one of very few black B-girls at events like Red Bull BC One. With all the new hype and visibility around breaking, she hopes that black communities won't get left behind. Luckily, there are people working to combat exactly that.
Breakdancing, since we created, should be big in New York City, but it's in an ant phase. So we see a culture disappearing. I was on another cloud, and I want our kids to feel that cloud because it's such a vibe. I don't want them to feel what they're feeling now.
That was Norman Scott, who danced with the Rocksteady crew in the 1980s. Growing up, breaking was about vibe, energy, and expression. But it was also about the culture. Norman is more interested in bringing breaking back to New York City, the community it started in, especially since many low-income black and brown communities in the city still struggle with many of the same racial and socioeconomic issues that led to the birth of breaking in the first place. As the Paris Games have already begun, breaking is certainly an event to look forward to. For Team USA, 4 breakers are making their Olympic debut. Sunny Choi and Logan Edra are the qualifying B-girls, while Victor Montalvo and Jeffrey Lewis are the qualifying B-boys. Each comes from a different background and has made their mark on the breaking scene as international champions of events like Red Bull BC One, the World Games, and Freestyle Session.
Our next guests are 2 incredible athletes competing for Team USA in the sport of breaking. Please give it up for Olympic athletes Sunny Choi and Victor Montalvo.
There's no doubt that breaking is more commercialized and globalized than ever. You know, it'll certainly be interesting to see how the scoring system fares in Paris. The conversation around a subculture reaching the main stage is a tricky one. And it's important to mention that we saw a similar conversation when skateboarding was added to Tokyo's program a few years ago. Breaking and skateboarding are part of this growing subsection of sports known as urban sports. Now, there's a whole other conversation to be had around the word urban and its many connotations, but you can see that we're already challenging the ways that subcultures once deemed radical and rebellious are entering the mainstream. It's important to keep these concerns in mind as we await the debut of breaking at the Olympics, and to honor the legacy of the communities whose struggles are the very reason for breaking's existence. Thanks so much for listening to Sportly. Sportly is an Immigrantly Media production. This episode was produced by Sadia Khan and Shay Yu, written by Michaela Strother, Shay Yu, and me, Kavitha Davidson. Our sound designer and editor is Paroma Chakravarti. Our theme music was created by Simon Hutchinson. Other music by Epidemic Sound. And if you have thoughts or suggestions for a topic you'd like me to cover, I'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to email me at kavitha@immigrantlypod.com. And if typing a long email just isn't your thing, record and attach a voice memo to your email. Who knows? I might read or play it in one of our upcoming episodes. Tune back in next week and every week for more Sportly.